What's going on, guys? We have a lot going on today, a lot to talk about. The spot Bitcoin ETFs were approved as of yesterday, and we did see an aftermarket pump for the Bitcoin miners. We saw the altcoins rally, and we did see Bitcoin get to $49,000. We also saw a pre-market pump among the miners. However, one thing we're noticing today is as the spot Bitcoin ETFs are now being traded, we're seeing a bit of a sell-off on the miners. So we're going to talk about that. I also want to talk about a large asset manager not doing trading on spot Bitcoin ETFs. I think the market is reacting to that. They do have multiple trillion dollars in assets under management. And I got a clip for you from Zach Bradford, and I gotta say, he's 100% spot on here. But let's get started on this video, guys. If you don't mind hitting the like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, definitely helps me out a lot. Consider checking out the links down below for some stocks and cryptos. And if you feel like showing your support, my membership is only $2 a month. And first off, let's talk about these spot Bitcoin ETFs. Now, 11 were approved, and these 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs have seen a total of $2.2 billion in trading volume so far. And what's extremely interesting here is, according to Standard Chartered Bank, the new spot Bitcoin ETFs could bring in as much as 50 billion to 100 billion in the year 2024. So I wouldn't personally get too caught up in what's going on today. I think you got to look at the big picture. Overall, this will bring a lot more buyers. I also want to talk about Vanguard not accepting spot Bitcoin ETFs on their platform. Now, Vanguard is a company that I really like. I've used this broker for multiple years now. Never had any issues with them. Always been a big fan. And this is a large company with a lot of assets under management. We're talking about trillions of dollars here. And a Vanguard customer service rep said that the reason they're not doing this is because crypto spot ETFs are highly speculative, unregulated, and didn't fit with the company's long-term investing philosophy. However, I've had Cleanspark on there for multiple years now. They accept trading of pretty much all the Bitcoin miners that I know of. You can buy MicroStrategy on there. You can buy Bitcoin related products, but for some reason they don't want you to be able to buy spot Bitcoin ETFs. I personally think that's a little odd. They also cite that crypto's high volatility counters their goal of helping investors generate positive real returns over time. While they should really look at Bitcoin and see how Bitcoin's performed over the long term. One of the best performing assets, if not the best performing asset out there. And they could always do something like Fidelity or Charles Schwab, where they give you a disclaimer, tell you that you have to have high risk tolerance to invest in these products. But let me know what you guys think about Vanguard not allowing spot Bitcoin ETFs on their platform. And we're talking about a company that as of March 2023, so it's probably grown in assets under management, but we're talking about a company with over $7.6 trillion in global assets under management. I do think the market is having a little bit of a reaction to this news. And next up, I'm going to show you a couple of clips from Zach Bradford. I think he sums up the spot Bitcoin ETFs and the big picture here very well. And also a more important, in my opinion, upcoming catalyst that I think is bigger than the spot Bitcoin ETFs.
How we view it is as a long-term catalyst. So I think we'll see some, price action immediately after, but we look at it as another way of adoption. And the strength of Bitcoin is partially based on how many users use it, what adoption looks like, and what the access looks like. And this is going to be a brand new way for new investors to be able to get access in a way that's familiar. So we see this as nothing but positive for ultimately the price of Bitcoin, but the long-term adoption rate of Bitcoin also. We think this is going to really prove it out. The Bitcoin approving an ETF helps everybody view also the related industries around it as something that is a little more friendly, a little more accessible for your everyday investor. The access or the custody or, what is Bitcoin? There's potential complications that are barriers to entry. An average investor feels very comfortable with a stock or, an ETF ownership. And I think that there's a lot of institutional capital that's been sidelined due to the risks around it. And the ETFs have now put up a system where they're going to hold it. They're going to manage some of those immediate risks around holding and custody of the Bitcoin themselves. And so I think it's a great entry point. And I think that, if you look at the returns that Bitcoin has been producing on a long-term basis, I think you're going to see a lot of portfolio managers access at least a small portion of the portfolio because I think that there's going to be, to the SEC's point from their warning on Monday, there's going to be a fear of missing out. And I think it's a valid fear because I of course am a long-term believer in Bitcoin. And so I do think that that's where we're going to see an easy entry point into Bitcoin through these ETFs. Yeah, the halving event is every 4 years. Essentially, the rewards that the algorithm produces for the miners that are managing the system gets cut in half. And it's designed that way for, supply and demand reasons. And I think, again, on a long-term basis, as supply decreases, you get built-in scarcity, and that helps improve Bitcoin and its value. On a historical basis, in the prior halvings, when it occurs, there's usually, an upward price movement 3 to 6 months after the halving event that's very meaningful. And so, as a miner, our focus has been on making sure we are amongst the most efficient miners on an energy basis, which of course is our main cost driver, so we can stay competitive, so that when the large price movement that we do expect on a post-halving basis occurs, that we're ready to benefit from that. New investors to Bitcoin, there's a catalyst coming in April to look for that historically has led to price improvement on a long-term basis.
But let me know what you guys think about that short clip. I do think Zach Bradford's on point. Overall, these spot Bitcoin ETFs will bring net buyers to Bitcoin, and I wouldn't personally be too worried about the short-term reaction. We had so many people saying there's going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. And while we didn't see Bitcoin sell off dramatically, we are seeing a little bit of a pullback for the miners, even with the after hours and pre-market pump. But we're basically now where we were for the most part for the miners about 3 days ago. And as for CleanSpark, I am still eyeing this $7 gap fill here. I think it's pretty likely that we can come down to it. We're only looking at around a 15-16% retracement, and it's filled. I also think it's highly likely that if we do fill that gap, we're also going to bounce off the 50 MA. But that potential gap fill aside, CleanSpark looks great on the chart. We're very bullish. We saw our golden cross about a month ago. The moving averages are still pointing up, and I do expect the miners to have at least one more pump before the upcoming halving, and before we get that narrative that the Bitcoin halving is going to really hurt these miners. They're getting their rewards cut in half. Well, the big picture is Bitcoin's price appreciation will more than make up for it. I've said this a million times, but I do expect a potential drawdown somewhere around the halving for the Bitcoin miners. But before that point, I do expect one more rally at the very least before we get to around late February, March, before the halving gets much closer. But to me, Bitcoin is looking great. We just created new yearly highs, got all the way to nearly 49,000 before cooling off now. I do expect to see Bitcoin continue to create 52-week highs until we eventually break all-time highs. And I personally gotta say, I expect to see all-time highs somewhere around 3 to 6 months from now. And I've made a prediction in a previous video where I expect Bitcoin to get to $80,000 by August. I do think, looking at previous halvings, based on the halving cycles, shortly after the halving, I can see Bitcoin well into the 80,000s. But let me know, guys, if I'm a little too conservative there or just a little too bullish. Now, Ethereum. We saw a nice breakout on Ethereum. Ethereum broke out nicely out of its 2400 resistance, got nearly to 2700, now cooling off a bit here. I'm very bullish on Ethereum for the long term, and as I've said in previous videos, I expect we're going to keep up with this trend throughout history, and I will follow through and keep an eye on it. But we've been following this trend since around 2019. This yellow ascending line here, and we haven't seen Ethereum break this line once. And I personally gotta say, I find it very unlikely that we're gonna come down to this trend line again. But if we do get near it, I think that's a great buying opportunity, and I am very bullish on Ethereum over the long term. We've seen net burning of Ethereum. As new Ethereum gets issued, more Ethereum gets burnt than the new Ethereum that gets issued. I think that's massive about Ethereum. I'm very, very bullish on it. I do think there's going to be a little hype on this one, and we did see a little bit of hype as people are looking at the next big catalyst, the next thing that's going to draw all the hype in, and that's the potential for spot Ethereum ETFs. And I did want to add real quick, guys, that today I did buy some Btbt. There's a Bitcoin miner, and they also stake and hold Ethereum, and this miner had one of the best after hours yesterday as people are trying to find the next catalyst, the Ethereum spot ETFs. I do think Btbt will have a great couple of months. For one, we have potential Bitcoin price appreciation, and also Ethereum, and therefore Btbt riding the Ethereum spot ETF hype. But let me know what you guys think about what's going on. What have you been making purchases on? I think it's a great chance to scoop up some of the miners today. And overall, the coming halving is going to appreciate the price in Bitcoin dramatically. And we also have new money coming in, buying up these spot Bitcoin ETFs that otherwise would not be touching Bitcoin. I do think Bitcoin is going to appreciate in price dramatically over the coming years, and we should be looking at a very exciting 2024 and 2025. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.